How much power can a child's kindness hold? Enough to summon 200 Apache warriors. Enough to stop a battle before it ever began. Enough to test what kind of father a man truly is. This is the story of an 8-year-old girl, a dying warrior, and a choice that would force a settler to risk everything, not to fight for land, but for love. The sun rose slow that morning, lazy and golden, casting long shadows across the Kansas plains. From a distance, it looked like any other day. But outside Tobias Whitfield's barn, 200 Apache warriors sat motionless on horseback. Not one of them moved. Not one of them spoke. They were just waiting. And in that silence, every settler for miles felt it in their bones. Something had gone terribly, terribly wrong. Tobias pressed his back against the inside wall of the barn, his Winchester trembling in his hands. His breath was ragged, his thoughts scattered. But only one question burned through his mind. Where was Emma? His daughter, 8 years old, last seen playing down by the creek an hour ago. Now, she was gone. And outside his walls stood a man known only in stories, Standing Eagle war chief of the Mescalero Apache. His warriors formed a line so perfect, so still, they looked carved from stone. But their eyes were alive, watching, waiting. And when Standing Eagle finally spoke, his words didn't carry anger. They carried something far more dangerous intention. Your daughter, he said, did something yesterday that my people will never forget. Tobias's blood ran cold. What had Emma done? What could an 8-year-old girl possibly do to summon 200 warriors and a chief who rode with the weight of generations behind him? That morning, Tobias had woken up a farmer. By sunset, he'd be facing trials no man had ever faced. Not to protect a nation, but to keep his daughter. There's a kind of stillness that doesn't soothe. A stillness so deep it makes every sound louder, every breath a question, every second a warning. That was the kind of morning Tobias Whitfield stepped into. The sun had barely crested the hills, but its light already poured across the dry Kansas fields, casting long shadows from every fence post and cottonwood. The breeze, if it existed at all, was holding its breath. And Tobias could feel it. Something was wrong. His Winchester rested in his lap, not because he planned to use it, but because it was the only thing that made his hands stop shaking. Through a crack in the barn's weathered planks, he saw them. Rows of Apache warriors, 200 of them, each one mounted still as statues, their faces painted in solemn colors that didn't scream war, no. They whispered it. Lances glinted under the morning light. Leather bridles creaked softly, the only proof that time was still moving at all. They didn't speak. They didn't threaten. They just waited. And that silence said more than 1,000 shouts ever could. Tobias's breath caught. Where was Emma? She'd been playing near the creek, her favorite spot just past the cottonwoods where the water still trickled after summer's long drought. She'd taken her doll, her blanket, and her laughter. That was an hour ago. Now she was gone. He had searched the house, the yard, called until his voice went raw. Nothing. And outside, 200 Apache warriors surrounded his land, not with fury, but with intent. Like guards watching over something sacred, or something claimed. He pressed a hand to the barn wall, tried to steady his breathing. His thoughts spiraled through every warning he'd ever heard in town. Don't trust them. They don't forget. They come silent, and they don't come twice. But this wasn't a raid. This was a statement, and it terrified him more than any attack ever could. Suddenly, one rider dismounted. A tall man, eagle feathers, woven through long black hair, chest marked with ceremonial scars, stepped forward. The rest remained still, as if frozen in reverence. Tobias recognized authority when he saw it. This man wasn't just a warrior. He was someone they followed. And then he spoke. Clear, measured, in perfect English. Tobias Whitfield, I am Standing Eagle of the Mescalero Apache. We need to talk. The fact that this man knew his name chilled Tobias to the bone, but it was the calm in his voice that shook him deeper. This wasn't revenge. It wasn't retribution. It was something else. And whatever it was, it began with his daughter. Tobias Whitfield had heard Apache voices before on wind-blown trails, in stories traded across barroom tables, always sharp, always distant, always laced with warning. But this voice was different. Standing Eagle didn't shout. He didn't accuse. He spoke Tobias's name like it had always belonged to him. "We need to talk," the warrior said again. His words low and firm like thunder, too far to be seen but close enough to feel. Tobias stepped from behind the barn. The heat of the sun struck his back, but the cold in his chest stayed. He didn't raise his rifle. He didn't run. He simply walked forward, not because he was brave, but because something in Standing Eagle's voice didn't feel like war. It felt like reckoning. The two men stood facing each other, one in worn denim, the other in feathers and scars, a farmer and a war chief. Two fathers, though neither had said it yet. Behind Standing Eagle, the line of warriors remained unmoving, still as the prairie itself. But Tobias could feel the pressure of their presence, like the weight of 200 eyes watching his every breath. "Where's my daughter?" he asked, his voice cracking despite his best efforts to hold it steady. Standing Eagle studied him not with judgment, but with the calm patience of a man who had seen many storms and knew this one required stillness, not speed. "She did something yesterday," he said quietly, "that my people have never seen from a white child." Tobias's heart stumbled in his chest. What had Emma done? "She found one of our warriors, wounded, dying. Instead of fear, she showed compassion." There was a pause, a long one. Then the warrior's eyes softened, just enough to let something ancient pass through. "She gave him her blanket." Tobias blinked. Her blanket, the one her mother had sewn by hand, the one she clung to every night, the only thing that had kept her calm through her mother's passing. He felt the memory hit him like a wave. Emma curled up on cold nights, clutching that wool like it carried her mother's heartbeat. She gave that away to a dying man she didn't know. Standing Eagle nodded, as if reading his thoughts. "She stayed with him," he said, held his hand, sang to him until his spirit passed. And then she laid flowers on his chest. Tobias's throat closed. His daughter hadn't just been kind. She had honored a warrior in death in a way that no outsider ever had. But before Tobias could speak, Standing Eagle raised a hand. "There's more," he said. "Something we found this morning that changes everything." He reached into a leather pouch and pulled out a ribbon, Emma's ribbon, torn, stained, with blood. And suddenly, Tobias realized this wasn't just a visit of gratitude. It was a search for what came next. The ribbon in Standing Eagle's hand fluttered slightly in the wind. Tobias recognized it instantly, cornflower blue. Frayed at one end, a hand-stitched flower pattern barely holding together after years of wear. It had belonged to Emma since she was 4. Her mother's hands had tied it into her hair every Sunday before church. After she passed, Emma wore it every single day. Like a piece of memory she refused to let go. Now, it was stained with blood, not dried brown, fresh, dark. Tobias swallowed hard. "We found it beside Lone Wolf's body," Standing Eagle said. But the blood was not his. The words hit like a rifle crack in the soul. She'd been there, she'd stayed. And something had happened after. "We don't know what hurt her," the chief continued. "But we know this, your daughter's actions have not gone unnoticed by the spirits." He turned toward the cottonwood grove near the creek. Emma's favorite place. She didn't scream. She didn't run. She didn't fetch men with guns. She sat beside a dying man. She gave him warmth. She gave him peace. Tobias closed his eyes. He could see her there, knees dirty from play, chattering softly the way she always did when she thought no one was listening. He imagined her small hands tucking the blanket around a stranger's shoulders, her lullaby trembling into the silence. She had done what no adult might have dared. She had crossed a line drawn by generations of fear, and in doing so she had erased it, if only for a moment. "To us," Standing Eagle said, "death is not an ending. It is a passage, and those who help the dying cross with dignity are considered sacred." Tobias's voice was barely a whisper. She didn't know. That the chief replied gently is why it matters. He stepped closer now, his presence no longer heavy with command, but with something softer, something older. When kindness is offered without expectation, it speaks to the deepest part of who we are. Behind them, the line of warriors still held, unmoving, unyielding. But their silence now felt different, like reverence, not threat. Your daughter gave more than comfort, Standing Eagle continued. She gave honor. And to us, that makes her one of our own. Tobias staggered slightly beneath the weight of those words, not because they were cruel, but because they were true. And as he opened his mouth to speak, Standing Eagle's face changed again, this time more somber. But there is a complication, and it would change everything. Tobias reached for the ribbon as if it might still be warm from her hair. The moment it touched his hand, his knees nearly gave out. He'd tied that ribbon himself just yesterday morning, his fingers clumsy, his heart aching from how easily Sarah used to do it. Emma had giggled at his crooked bow, called it perfect anyway, and run off with her doll tucked under one arm and that same blue ribbon dancing behind her. Now it was in his palm, creased, torn, and stained with blood. Not Lone Wolf's. Emma's. The world tilted. His chest burned with questions, but no words came. Only the image of his little girl out there somewhere, hurt, alone. And he hadn't even known. She left this beside his body, Standing Eagle said quietly. A gesture of farewell, of meaning. But these stains, they tell us she may not have walked away from that creek unharmed. Tobias gripped the ribbon tighter. He wanted to shout, to run, to collapse. But instead he stood still, because movement suddenly felt like it might tear him apart. We searched the grove. The chief continued, his voice even, but there were no other tracks. No sign of where she went after. Or who may have taken her. That word taken lodged in Tobias's throat like a stone. The barn, the animals, the sick calf. He'd only been gone 20 minutes. That's all. And in that time, he shut his eyes. A father's guilt is a heavy thing, and it weighs most in moments of silence. I should have looked sooner, Tobias said, barely more than a breath. Standing Eagle's eyes met his, not with judgment, but understanding. No man can protect against what he does not yet know. A pause passed between them, filled only by the soft snort of a distant horse and the quiet sigh of morning wind. We believe, the chief said finally, that she may have tried to return to the grove after leaving Lone Wolf's side. Perhaps she tripped. Perhaps she was frightened. But in our law, Tobias Whitfield, one who honors the dying, becomes sacred. And sacred things must be guarded. Tobias looked up, confusion bleeding into fear. What do you mean, guarded? Standing Eagle exhaled slowly, then answered, Your daughter's act has bound her to us. According to our oldest ways, she has become part of our people. We are not here to punish. We are here because we believe she belongs with us now. Tobias staggered back a step, not from anger, but from the enormity of it. His little girl had offered kindness, but in doing so, she'd crossed into a world he didn't understand. And if he wanted to bring her back, he wouldn't just have to find her. He'd have to prove he was worthy to keep her. For Tobias Whitfield, law had always been something printed on paper, held in courthouse drawers, spoken by sheriffs in dusty hats. It had rules, definitions, boundaries. But what Standing Eagle spoke of now was something older, deeper, not written in books, but carried in hearts, in fireside songs, in the hush of sacred groves where ancestors still listened. And that law now claimed his daughter. She honored the spirit of a dying man, the chief said. In doing so, she became sacred to us. Tobias could barely breathe. She's just a child, he said. She didn't know your customs. She was just being kind. That Standing Eagle replied gently is why her action carries weight. Tobias turned away, rubbing his hand down his face, as if he could wipe the truth from it. The barn, the fence line, the fields he'd plowed himself all suddenly felt like stage props on a land he didn't really own. Emma had acted from instinct, from heart, and now those pure intentions had placed her in the middle of something he didn't understand. You're saying, because she comforted a dying man, you can take her. We're not taking, the chief said. We're recognizing. She crossed into our circle by choice of spirit, not blood. and she will be protected as one of us. The word protected hit Tobias in the gut. He didn't doubt their sincerity. He didn't question their honor. But he couldn't shake the image of Emma asleep in her small bed, her blanket clutched in her arms, whispering stories to the ceiling like her mama once had. That was the world he knew. And now, it was slipping away. "She's my daughter," he said quietly. "She's all I have left." For a long moment, Standing Eagle said nothing. When he finally spoke, his voice was soft. "A child who lives between two worlds needs a guide strong enough to walk both." Tobias met his eyes. "And if I'm not?" The chief's face grew solemn. "Then we guide her. We raise her as our own. That is what the law requires." Behind them, the morning light lengthened across the dirt, drawing long shadows between them. Two men, two fathers, two truths, and one little girl at the center of it all. But before either could speak again, a sound rose over the silence. A child's cry, faint, fractured, echoing across the prairie like the ghost of hope. Tobias turned toward it like he'd been struck by lightning. Emma, she was alive, but not safe. And now came the choice. The cry came again, weak, distant, breaking through the hush of prairie air like a thread pulling Tobias toward the edge of reason. "Daddy." "Emma." It was her voice, frayed with pain, echoing from the direction of the old mine shaft, a half-mile east, abandoned for decades, swallowed slowly by dust and silence. Tobias didn't think. His feet moved before his heart caught up. But Standing Eagle's hand gripped his arm like iron. "Wait," the chief said. "It could be a trap. I don't care." Tobias snapped, voice thick with panic. "That's my daughter." But Standing Eagle didn't let go. "If you charge in blind and die, who will guide her back from the world between ours?" The words froze Tobias in place. He hated how much sense they made. Within minutes, the Apache warriors moved with quiet precision, disappearing behind scrub weaving through the earth like they belonged to it. They were scouts, yes, but more than that. They were caretakers of stillness. When one of them returned, he didn't speak, just gave a solemn nod. "She's there," Standing Eagle translated. Alive, but trapped. Tobias's knees buckled. She had fallen through rotted boards covering the mine's mouth, slipped 15 feet into the earth. The timbers were unstable, the rock crumbling. Any wrong move could bring it all down. "We'll need ropes," Tobias said. "Supports. Lumber to shore it up. There's no time." Standing Eagle interrupted. "The supports are failing. Minutes, maybe. No more." The weight of choice settled hard on Tobias's shoulders. Act fast and risk a collapse. Wait for safety and watch her die slowly. There was no map for this. "This is your first test," Standing Eagle said quietly. "Not one we planned, but one the spirits have chosen." Tobias stared at him. "You want me to trust spirits?" From behind them, an old man stepped forward, stooped, lined with time, his eyes clear as river stone. "This is Silent Thunder," Standing Eagle said. "Our medicine man. He once worked these mines before the wars began. He knows them. And he knows how to speak to the mountain." Tobias blinked. It sounded like madness, like myth. But then Emma's voice echoed again, fainter this time. And suddenly belief didn't seem so far away. "Tell me what to do," he whispered. Silent Thunder nodded once, then knelt beside the shaft, laying out bones and stones with care. He didn't look like a man preparing for rescue. He looked like a man preparing for prayer. And Tobias Whitfield, a rancher with calloused hands and no faith in spirits, stepped toward the earth to learn how to listen. Tobias crouched beside the shaft's mouth, his heart thudding louder than the wind in the grass. Below him, Emma's voice drifted up in broken whimpers, scared, hurting, and holding on. Beside him, Silent Thunder moved like someone who had done this 100 times and never rushed once. His weathered hands placed stones in a careful pattern, bones aligned like they were listening. His eyes closed, his lips began to move. Not loudly, not dramatically, just steadily. A rhythm older than language. Tobias didn't understand the words, but he understood the weight. Every second felt like it should be filled with action, with building, pulling, doing. But the old man knelt in stillness. And somehow, impossibly, that stillness began to change the air itself. The ground felt less hostile. The creaking timbers grew quieter. And Tobias, despite every logical bone in his body, found himself kneeling too. Not because he believed in mountain spirits, but because something inside him needed to believe in something bigger than fear. Then came the thunder. Not from the ground, but from the hills. Hooves, fast, heavy. Standing Eagle turned sharply, eyes narrowing. "Soldiers," he said. "A cavalry patrol." Tobias's stomach dropped. He hadn't sent for help, but someone somewhere must have seen the warriors and sent word. The blue coats crested the ridge in tight formation, rifles, ready eyes locked on the scene before them. 200 Apache warriors surrounding a white man's farm. A mine on the verge of collapse. A settler nowhere in sight. To them, it looked like a siege. Lieutenant Morrison rode forward, young and proud, voice sharp with command. "Release the hostages," he shouted. Tobias shouted back, but the sound barely reached daylight. Above ground, Standing Eagle didn't move. He simply stepped forward, hands raised. "No hostages," he said calmly. "We are helping." But Morrison saw feathers and numbers, not truth. "You have 30 seconds before we open fire." Below, Tobias gripped the ladder, heart pounding. They didn't know. They couldn't hear. They couldn't see that what was happening here wasn't a standoff. It was a rescue. He looked at Silent Thunder, still chanting, still listening to the mine's voice, and he looked down into the shaft, where Emma waited in the dark, depending not just on her father's hands, but on his belief. And as the timbers groaned and the first shots rang out overhead, Tobias made a decision. He pulled the rope tight, whispered down the shaft, "Hold on, sweetheart. We're coming." The mountain would take what it would, but not before a father tried everything to bring his daughter home. The mine didn't collapse, not yet. Tobias and Emma had emerged coughing, shaking, coated in dust, but alive. Above them, rifles had been lowered, voices hushed. The cavalry, poised for war, now stood motionless, watching as two people stumbled from the earth, pulled up by Apache hands, not dragged down by them. Lieutenant Morrison's face was a portrait of disbelief, and still the Apaches didn't move to defend. They simply stood back, silent, honorable, unarmed. Tobias clutched Emma to his chest. Her head pressed into his shoulder, her small fingers curled into the back of his shirt like she never wanted to let go. He didn't blame her. And then Standing Eagle approached. There was no smile, no triumph, just gravity in his voice, like the ground itself had decided to speak. "You've passed the first test," he said. "You placed your daughter's life above your doubts. And above your pride." Tobias nodded once, still out of breath. "What's next?" he asked quietly. "Sacrifice." A single word, simple, heavy. When Emma gave her blanket to Lone Wolf, the chief continued. She sacrificed what was most precious to her, without being asked, without expecting reward. That is the second test. Tobias swallowed hard. "What do you want me to give?" Standing Eagle gestured toward the house. "The land. The fields beyond. This place, this farm, sign it over to the Apache people. And you will have shown that your heart matches your daughter's." Silence fell. The kind that feels like the moment before a storm or a miracle. This land was everything. Every blister on Tobias's hands, every long night since Sarah died. Every meal he'd dreamed of cooking for Emma when she grew up, it all lived in the soil here. To give it up would mean starting over with nothing. But to keep it might mean failing the test. He looked down at Emma, who stared up at him through tear-streaked cheeks, still holding the corner of her mended blanket, still trusting him. "If I give it away," he said softly, "where will we live?" "I cannot answer that," Standing Eagle replied. "Only whether you are willing." The barn creaked gently behind them. A hawk cried out in the distance. And every man, soldier and warrior alike, held their breath. Tobias stepped forward. "If this is what it takes to be worthy of her, then take it." But Standing Eagle did not take the deed. He smiled. You passed. The test was not whether you'd give it, but whether you'd be willing to lose everything for her. And one more test remained, one that would not ask for land or risk, but for something far harder to promise understanding. Tobias thought the hardest part would be the mine, or the idea of giving up the farm. But as Standing Eagle looked at him now, voice gentle but firm, Tobias realized this final test was different. It wasn't about strength. It wasn't about sacrifice. It was about humility. The third test, Standing Eagle said, is not for your body or your land. It is for your heart. Tobias said nothing, his arm still wrapped around Emma, who leaned into his side blanket clutched tightly in her lap. You must promise, the chief continued, to raise your daughter not just as a white child, but as an Apache child too. To teach her both paths. To let her know the songs, the language, the ways she honored without knowing. Tobias felt his breath catch. Not because he disagreed, but because he was afraid. Afraid he wouldn't do it right. Afraid of not knowing enough. Afraid that somehow, by teaching her their way, he'd lose the last pieces of Sarah's world, the world they'd built, the life they'd dreamed. I'm not one of you, he said quietly. I don't know the language. I've never sat by your fires. I've heard stories, but most of them were warnings. Standing Eagle nodded slowly. That is why this test matters. It is not about what you know. It is about what you are willing to learn. There was a long silence. Emma looked up at him, her small fingers still trembling, her eyes filled with something that went beyond fear, something that looked a lot like trust. Daddy, she whispered. I liked the way they prayed for Lone Wolf. Tobias looked at her, really looked. He didn't see a settler's child, or a stranger to their world. He saw someone in between, someone who had stepped into two circles and drawn them closer together. And just maybe that was where healing began. He looked up at Standing Eagle. I'll learn, he said. I'll listen. I'll let her carry both worlds in her heart, and I'll walk beside her in both. The chief's eyes softened. Then you have passed. From behind him, a warrior approached and placed something gently into Emma's hands. It was her blanket, freshly cleaned, carefully mended. Lone Wolf. Standing Eagle said, told us in spirit where to find it. He wanted her to have it back, with his gratitude. Tears filled Tobias's eyes as Emma pressed the fabric to her chest and whispered, thank you. And just like that, what began as a quiet act of kindness had become the bridge between two nations. The sun was beginning to dip low on the Kansas horizon, casting amber light across the dust and worn wood of the Whitfield farm. But something had changed. It wasn't just the way the cavalry now stood with weapons lowered, or how the Apache riders melted back into the landscape like they'd never been there. It was the silence. Not tense, not waiting, but full, like the land itself had exhaled. Tobias sat on the porch steps, his arm around Emma, who leaned against him, her small hands clutching the blanket that had changed everything. Cleaned, mended, returned. She held it differently now. Not like a child afraid to lose it, but like someone who understood what it meant to give and receive. Standing Eagle stood before them one last time, his voice low, his presence steady. She will always be welcome in our camps, he said. And so will you. Tobias nodded, unable to speak through the tightness in his chest. It wasn't just a farewell. It was a beginning. Weeks passed, then seasons, and something rare began to take root in that part of the territory. Letters arrived from tribal elders, then visitors, then songs shared across fires and lessons exchanged under cottonwood trees. Emma began learning words in a language older than the fences her father had once thought were permanent. And Tobias, who once believed he had nothing left to offer but land and labor, found himself growing in ways he never expected. Their home became more than a farm. It became a place of listening, of welcome. And the blanket, Emma's blanket, was hung not in storage, but framed gently in the main room. A reminder not of conflict, but of courage. She grew up fluent in two tongues, grounded in two stories. Her life became a thread woven between them, soft, strong, impossible to separate. And Tobias, he never remarried, never needed to. His devotion had already found its highest calling in raising a daughter whose simple kindness had once stopped a war. If this story reminded you that the smallest acts given freely without fear or agenda can echo across generations, then this is the kind of story we tell here. Subscribe to our channel if you believe stories like this still matter. And if you're ready for another tale, one that starts with a whisper and ends in something unforgettable, click the video on your screen now. Because sometimes, the smallest gesture doesn't just change a moment, it changes the frontier.